Hey everybody, this is Smit, tuning into TAOTalks, TAO, the art of exploring life, thought, and meaning. Welcome to episode 7. In today's episode, Jesse and I talk about the state of being happy. We talk about how it's constantly in the state of decay. We also talk about how sometimes risk or leaning into the risk can actually lead to a higher reward and how you might want to actually pursue that. And of course, there's a caveat where you could lean into that, or there's also a risk associated with just leaning into the risk. We then talk about goals, having extrinsic goals and intrinsic goals, but also looking at it and treating it like a lighthouse analogy, where the goal is not to hit the lighthouse, the goal is to aim in that direction. And so this conversation, we connected on the fluidity and dynamicness of these state of beings, and I think you're really gonna appreciate this conversation. So enjoy. This is TAOTalks, T-A-O, the art of Tao. TAOTalks, the art of exploring life. TAOTalks, the art of being. TAOTalks, philosophical musing. TAOTalks, ancient wisdom for modern beings. TAOTalks, the art of understanding. TAOTalks, universal laws. TAOTalks, timeless insights. Welcome to TAOTalks, T-A-O, the art of... Hey, Jesse. What's happening?
See, everything's happening. You gotta be more specific.
I think this episode will probably come out in like August, September. I'm gonna miss this weather
Oh, yeah.
then
Yeah.
when this comes out. It's been really nice, man. Allergies, but it's been just so good. Like, I just love being outside, going for walks, and you don't have to like think about what time of day it is for the most part.
Except for the mosquitoes.
Yeah.
Like,
You already have it? I don't have that much. It's not bad.
They haven't been bad yet.
It's not bad yet.
Yeah.
For sure it's gonna get there.
Yeah, the garden is popping. My tomatoes, cucumbers, starting to harvest cucumbers. Just everything's just enormous. In my chaos garden, and the peaches are they're getting close to being ready to start being picked. I'm actually I might be in a little bit of a battle with the squirrels or the peaches this year. They've already got 2, so and I'm worried that they're going to go take little chunks out one at a time, so they don't.
It's all gone.
They ruin all of them without ever eating an entire peach. So that's one thing that's happening
For you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you like looking out because it's right in front of your space?
Right in front of my space.
Yeah.
So yes, I'm constant, and I got a squirrel nest in a tree right above. So I will probably in the fall be looking to get rid of that tree, that nest, not the tree, but the nest.
Yeah.
We'll be. There's gonna be a little border dispute with me and the squirrels this year with the beech tree.
Yeah. Today I want to get into the state of being happy, I guess. Joy, you could say too. I think it's like so strange that it's like a transient state. It's not like something that you can attain. It's not something you like. It's kind of like, it's like you have goals and then you attain them. And then for the most part, I guess you can say like you have it. Like you've done that or you have it in your bucket. Yet happiness doesn't feel like it's something like that, where you do something. Maybe it's a sequential thing. Maybe it's like all at once. I don't know. You do something and then you can say, I have it, and now it's mine forever, per se, because it's like in a fleeting moment.
I go a couple of different routes. I had a whole a thing on happiness, that and joy and these kind of things that I like to get into, but I also feel a little bit of a draw towards defining, like, what is it? What is it that we're actually defining? What is it that we're actually talking about when we talk about happy, like being happy? I don't know which one to start on first.
Do you want me to say like what prompted me to have this thought?
That would
Then maybe I'll give you context.
Getting into like what is the context of it? What's the definition of happiness that we're talking about?
Yeah, so I came across this video on YouTube, and this person, psychiatrist, is breaking down the state of being happy. And so the gist of it is that first, happiness is not in something material or an object. So it's not like you buy this that you've always wanted, and then now you have happiness as a state of being. It's not an object. It's something else that happens maybe when you do get that object or attain a goal or something like that. Then something could promote happiness, but it's not inertly in something material that you can. I drank water, all of a sudden now it's because of that I'm feeling happy, per se. And then he broke it down in terms of happiness, or the state of being happy, and its connectedness to being in a state of mind where you are like almost like one-pointedness. So you don't have distracting thoughts. You don't have multiple of thoughts. You are kind of reduced down to like maybe a single thought or something that's like more clear. This is what meditation often leads you to be in that state of, and that's something that is connected to happiness. And so then the opposite of happiness, most people think of as like sadness, but really it's that's not even really the opposite. The opposite is like boredom, where you have so many thoughts that are happening, or I guess it's like one-pointedness versus many-pointedness, and that's the opposite of, per se, happiness. And I found that really interesting. And he also added another layer to that, saying that you could be in a state of mind in feeling happiness, and then a lingering thought could be introduced. You can create that. Something else can happen. You can say something to me. And that addition of thought could actually shake up this present state of being that you may be in, that maybe you're experiencing happiness, but all of a sudden this additional piece of information got introduced in your brain, and all of a sudden that could be, all of a sudden you're not happy anymore. And so then how do you go about actually being happy? And he said there's really kind of two extreme ways, especially in the context of that lingering thought, is where the first way is like you really work on mindfulness and being in a point where you're kind of thinking about a single pointedness, or like I think people call that as like when you're in flow state 2 or something like that, where you're just concentrating on one thing and you're in that state of being, and maybe that's what brings you happiness. And so you really work on that, your meditation, mindfulness, like, that, but that's a harder path. And then the second thing that he said is when you have that kind of lingering thoughts, especially a thought that is telling you to do something, or you want to do that, or you want to go here, or whatever that thought is to really just figure out a way to do that thing. So once you do that thing, then it's more likely that you're not going to spend the rest of your life continuing to have that thought, especially if you've already been consumed by it so far. And that's more like attainable. But the nuance is that it's not like that lingering thought could be that you achieve this goal. And so he's saying you go do that, but it's not that achieving goal brings you happiness. It's that now you're working on something where you actively worked on achieving a goal, that now you no longer have that lingering thought, and that could get you to that happiness state. So it's not that achieving goal is directly connected to that, but it's the lack of having that lingering thought is getting you there. So I put a lot out there, but that's kind of why I wanted to talk to you about this.
So I'm going to go into my kind of like thing about happiness, joy, and a lot. I would describe a lot of things in this way. So I think the way let me start with how I would define happiness is, I heard you touching upon it a little bit. It is a state of being, where I look at it as a moment in time in which things come into a particular type of an alignment. And that might be an alignment of goal, purpose, meaning, achievement, but also an orchestration of everything else kind of falling into alignment. Like, flow is a type of an alignment where things come into alignment and I'm in a state of flow. Happiness is a similar one.
But it's also in a time frame.
It's
like a particular moment.
It is a moment in time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the way I describe it over here is happiness is like a sunset.
Oh yeah, it's just thought about that as you were saying that.
You can go and find like a nice little bluff, sun's high up, hasn't set yet. It's just a normal day, but then a moment happens where that the sun hits just the perfect point on the horizon and things just light up in this new way. And it's beautiful. And you feel it, like it resonates with you where you're like, that moment would be there if you weren't. But the fact that you are there to experience it, to witness it, to be a part of it, like there's a level, and now you are a part of it. And then the next moment is gone.
And that's something that it sounds like also where I could be sitting here and sunset is happening and I may not feel that happiness because I'm not a part of that but maybe when you're sitting in front of it, maybe it is that in that moment, it could be that things align even obviously externally, but then also internally where you are not having this series of thoughts and you are actually able to appreciate that and what's it within. And that's what leads to you feeling happy in that moment.
Yeah. I want to simplify the alignment of our internal with the external. Right.
At any moment, right?
In the moment, at a particular moment, an internal alignment with the external. It can be birthday, it can be a sunset, it can be I passed the test.
It could be work.
Yeah. It could be I studied hard, I did the thing, and it's done. I was successful at it. And that moment of peace and relief that comes in was also like a flood. Like, I feel really good about myself for what I did. Even if I'm a little exhausted and a little tired, like it can have all these other interesting, uncomfortable components to it and still like feel really good. And then it's a fleeting state. It's not, entropy. The state of being will decay over time. It will never remain the same. It's a big reason why I do not advocate chasing happiness, chasing joy. I think that's a dog chasing its own tail. It should run around in circles.
So how do you look at it? Like, I think you've said before that life is really just an experience and it's not like you're chasing to go somewhere or chasing to be in a specific state of mind. In this case of happiness, it's just an experience. How do you look at it? Like when you say you don't advocate for chasing that state of mind.
We have a lot of different emotional states. So there's a lot of different states of being and they're all relevant. There's not one that is more important or more relevant than the other. Like sadness is a moment in time. It's the same sunset and it's just as beautiful. Not always comfortable. We don't always like it. But when it is in alignment for sadness, I want to be fully integrated in that moment to the same degree that I would be in that moment of happiness.
Whoa, I never thought about that sunset analogy as how it could pertain to any state of being, or, you're experiencing feelings.
All states of being are going to be momentary and fleeting. And it's the context of all the feelings that makes happiness relevant. If happiness was a permanent state that we could attain and then be there forever, how would we know we were happy?
Yeah.
Like what would it do? It would lose its meaningness very quickly.
It's like darkness versus without lightness without darkness. Yeah.
So I don't want, that's part of the reason it's a dog chasing its tail, is because what it is that makes that moment so perfect and beautiful is the context of all the other moments, and how, the deepest sadnesses and pains that I've experienced amplify those moments where I feel happy, because it's that context of where I've been and where I am. And it's also the knowing that I will be there again one day. Like that all of this is somewhat cyclical. And I have some ability to influence it, but I don't have a whole lot of control. So ultimately it's like, how present can I be with all of the moments, whether they are the ones that feel good or the ones that feel not so good? Can I be present with it to the same degree? I don't know if I talked about this in our last episode or if this was with a client, to be able to witness the sunset. There's a lot of people who can see a sunset and not actually experience the sunset.
That's that misalignment.
Yeah. Just out of alignment. Like I'm more concerned about my taxes, my work, my relationships. And I'm in my head and I'm not present in the moment. And I just missed it.
Yeah.
The way I would describe it with client is, to be present in the moment is to be able to see the beautiful butterfly, where time kind of stands still for a moment and you see that butterfly, or you hear all the birds just singing. It's like, you just capture that moment. That butterfly and that beauty of that moment exists when we are elevated in more of a happy joy state, when things are going well, when we consider it good. That beauty, that butterfly flying around in that moment also exists in tragedy, when things are taking place around us that are tragic, right? There are times in my life where I have experienced the beauty of life joyfully and happily. And there's times where I've been in the worst despair possible. And time stood still and I noticed how beautiful it was.
Was it the same? Did you experience him the same? Like did that beauty? Yeah.
No, I wouldn't call it the same. It's something that, it's hard to even say whether, like, how much of it was I noticed that butterfly in a real time and had all the knowledge that I have of it now. I didn't have it in that moment. I witnessed it, but I think it was more the digesting it over time, the processing through because there's those moments they're tragic and they have trauma, and there's a process to work through the trauma, that trauma of that moment in order to find, it's like we're constantly in a cycle on elevation and depression. Like depression is just a normal part of our emotional cycle. And we're going to feel depressed at times, we're going to feel elevated at times. And so tragedy is going to happen and you're going to feel depressed by it. Some of it can be the spring has ended and now it's summer, and that is a tragedy, right? Like all these beautiful 70-degree days, and now I go outside and I feel oppressed. And it's like, there's an emotional process to going outside that is different in the spring than it is in the summer. So understanding there's that natural cyclical nature to us, that's the state of being constantly changing. And happiness is probably generally going to be on those upswings when we're feeling good and things are going well. And it's hard to feel happiness when we're on the downswing. But again, the beauty of life is the same no matter where you are on that continuum. And the reflection of the butterfly and the beauty of life generally comes in the work of doing the processing and getting to look back on it. So can't say that I was aware of it in that moment, right? It's easy to tell somebody when they're in the midst of despair. It's like, oh, just notice all the beauty around you. It's like they're going to want to punch you in the face if you do that. They can't see it in that moment. But as they work through it and start coming out the other side of it, they get to look back and go, oh, that was an amazing experience. It sucked like holy hell. But because I went through it, and I went through it in the way that I went through it, if I am present, working on being in alignment and integrity with internal and the external, then I tend to learn from those moments. I tend to grow from them, and it changes who I am going forward. And the person I become going forward can look back and be like, thank God I did that, because I wouldn't be who I am today. And it was because of that I am better today. I've grown today. It was hardship. It hurt. It was painful, but I'm better today. There are very few times where I can look back and go, that happy moment is what led me to being better today.
It's the opposite.
It's the opposite. Yeah. Happiness is kind of the fruit of that particular type of labor. The more I am willing to be present in these other states of being that aren't always comfortable, but it's true to where I am in the moment, but I do it in a way that is in integrity, and I'm consciously working on it. Doing my, breathing, moving, just continuing to take one step after the other. Eventually that depressive state is going to come back up, because the continuum was always doing that. It's a wave, always doing this. So there's always going to be an upswing.
Yeah, I'm thinking about like an event where me and my partner went to the Rocky Mountains, and then so we were gonna go on this hike, like 8-mile hike. So we started early. We got to the trailhead, just started making the hike, and some point in the hike, I think probably like 2 miles in, we couldn't tell where the trail, what was the trail? Like, where is the trail? What happened? Where did we miss the trail that we find ourselves? There's no trail here. I mean, it looked like a trail, but clearly it wasn't the trail that we were trying to go to. It's not even the same direction. And yet, we convinced ourselves that oh no, it might just be part of the trail, and we're going to see something there. We keep going, trekking along. And at some point it's clear, we've derailed. So we're now 5-6 hours into this, and basically if we want to turn back, even that's 5-6 hours, or we keep going and maybe there's something else. And then what ended up happening is we actually ended up being at a different point in the park. And so there's people there, there's cars there, there's a red stop or something like that. But our car is somewhere else. So we're basically hitchhiking to just be hey, we got lost. Can you drive us there? Somebody drove us there. And I think throughout many trips that we've actually taken, it's this particular hike that we keep remembering the most and laughing about the most now. And I think it feels relevant in the conversation that we're having, where it felt risky. What I hear from my wife is I almost died that day. Could have, right? And so it was that risk there. There was that low moment for sure on the hikes multiple times where it's what do we do now? Even if we go back, it just feels treacherous to just put all that back in. And yet at the same time, I think looking back on it, we laugh the most, we remember it the most. And I wonder if you think that there is like a risk factor to it as well here. Like the more risky something is, maybe in that moment.
I mean, I think there's a general principle that the higher the risk, the higher the reward.
Like the dopamine release at the end would be
For sure.
right.
But, also the higher the risk, the higher the risk.
Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
like if you take a higher risk, but you are successful, the payday is multitudes higher than if you take a low risk and you're successful. So yeah, you take a high risk and you get through it. It's like,
yeah,
there's going to be a pretty significant, cascade of feel like that's going to feel really good. I took a high risk and got through it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's, I think it also matters how you go through it.
In the journey, right?
In the journey, yeah. And how you process through it or out of it. Because you could easily go on that with your partner and be bickering the whole time, blaming one another. You make it to safety, but it doesn't, like you're mad at one another.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you almost killed me. Like it could turn into a bickering where there is no, thank God we survived. It's like, no, like,
Let's not do that again.
Yeah. And there's no laughter about it. Like, no.
No, it's more than that. It's more than even let's not do that again. It's just like, it was just horrible. Like,
so I don't have one that was quite that bad, but I have one that's actually fairly recent. We were in Port Aransas just a couple weeks ago for Sandfest.
Yeah.
And they didn't organize the shuttles very well. So when we got there, parking is like 2 miles from where the festival is, and they had a shuttle. And it was like a 45-minute wait to get on the shuttle and to actually get there.
Yeah.
And we didn't realize we were 2 miles away. So first one is we didn't know how far we were. But
shuttle. You assumed that it was 2 miles, so it looks
we assumed it was short.
Oh, okay.
Because who parks you 2 miles away? Like usually you're half a mile away from the place. So this was 2 miles. Like you're at the beach, and it's like 2 miles inland is where they parked us at. And so we decided when we leave, we're just going to walk back to our car. Yeah. And this is, my partner and her 2 kids, 9 and 12. And we pack a little HEB bag. Yeah. It's just got like plastic handles, plastic bag. Yeah. But it's filled with water bottles, towels, stuff. It's just like a 30, 40 pound bag, but but we needed to have like a shoulder strap to it. And I remember walking off from the shuttle, walking into the place going, man, it's the wrong bag. We should have had a different bag. So we're there. It's the whole, several hours, until like 2 or 3 o'clock. And it's time to leave. And so we start walking back, not, knowing that it was going to be longer and it's probably going to be tough, but had no idea how long it was going to be. I thought it was going to be like a 30-minute walk. And a lot of this is walking in sand, which sand is a lot different than walking on concrete. Yeah. It works your feet a lot more, works your hips a lot more.
It's almost 2 times harder. Just walk.
Significant amount more effort. And right off the bat, Julie was like, I don't want to walk. I want to take the shuttle. And it's like, we were, there's a little bit of like the complaining because this was going to be hard. Mm-hmm. And what we did, what I did is I kind of agreed with her. I complained with her, but I turned it into something that was fun. It's like, this is going to be hard, and man, my legs are going to hurt, but we're doing it together. We're tough, and we can do this. Mm-hmm. This is something we can do. And even though it's hard, it's going to be fun, and we're going to make it through, and we'll get through it. And it ended up being an hour and 10-minute walk. And it's like, I got this bag that I have to switch from one hand to the other hand and clothing on my shoulder. And it's just constantly, my feet were killing me like 30 minutes in. And we just kept joking about how hard it was. Like at one point I just stopped and we're halfway there. And I stop and I say, this is a terrible idea. Let's walk back and take the shuttle. And everybody's like, And so we're just laughing the whole time, even though we're all miserable.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we get to the bar and everybody's in a good mood. We get back to the condo, everybody's in a good mood.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one of those like hardship, bad idea, not very good planning on our parts. But because we did it together and we stayed present with one another, it became something fun, and we get to laugh about it. Like it's something that is a part of like the story of, remember that silly thing we did and how hard it was and how much it hurt, but it brings joy as opposed to something that brings pain.
Yeah, I almost wanted to ask, like, with what we're talking about here and like the stories that we shared and like in the context of risk, I almost wanted, I was this close to just asking you, like, oh, that means like take more risks, like just take more risks. However, I caught myself because that is me then chasing still happiness, right? Because here I'm like, oh, risk, more reward, more happiness. I'm gonna then now chase. And I think the point is that's not the recipe for success when you chase anything, any feelings. Because we just talked about it from a point of view of this being a momentary thing in life, and it fluctuates. It always comes back, and it always goes. And like there's not very much control that we have over that.
If we're going to chase risk, we also have to contextualize it with reward and put it in a framework of, is it worth risk? Risk and a reward. Is it worth it? Sometimes it's worth chasing the risk, but we have to bring it into some kind of context of like, is it?
And that sounds like then being like really clear about what's at stake.
Right.
I mean,
so there's a little bit
knowing as much as a full picture as possible.
A little bit of a distinction in the two experiences that we just shared. We were just going out and experiencing life, and the reality is when we're experiencing life,
it comes,
and sometimes we make good choices along the way, and sometimes we make silly ones. And often we make silly ones. Like, human beings are very silly. We do a lot of things that don't make a whole lot of sense. Even the smartest of us. If you watch a really smart, intelligent human being, 50% of the time you're going to think that person's an idiot because they're doing kind of weird, dumb things. That's just humans. Like that's just human nature. So when we're just doing our regular everyday things, there's risk to life, and there's risk to doing things. And going hiking on a trail, we don't even recognize the risk. Although going through the Rocky Mountains, you got to, there's bears, there's getting lost. Do I have enough water? Do I have a way of communicating? Like, there's some risk and reward that we can pay attention to. Is like, okay, if I get lost, what do I do? Like, there's some mitigations that we can do to those issues. Out on the beach, none of that. We're in, like, I could have called an Uber at any time.
Yeah.
We had we just we were just being silly humans doing silly things for an hour and 10 minutes. We could have gotten out of it at any time fairly easily, and we kept going through it. That's a little bit different than chasing risk. Because there are times where I think chasing risk is actually appropriate. If you're young, you'd be chasing a little bit more risk than somebody who's old.
But for what? Like, for just more rewards?
I mean, that's a overly simplistic. I mean, what's a reward? Reward's a dopamine hit. Reward might be financial. Reward might be love. Reward might be getting accolades. Rewards might be just some kind of like personal, pat on the shoulder. Like, that was just a goal I had, and I'm glad I did it. And I feel rewarded even if nobody else knows. So it depends on what you mean by reward. Reward can be fairly substantial.
I understand, and you're saying, so okay, sometimes it's contextual in terms of chasing risks, and you're saying sometimes chasing risks can be beneficial, and then you're saying it could be more beneficial if you're younger compared to if you're older, and I'm saying all this to chase rewards, and you're saying yes, like why not? There's a part of me that's saying like, what's the point of this? Like, what's the point? Like, what? Okay, because we know that the rewarding like that moment is also fleeing. There's gonna be that sad, depressed state of being that we're gonna be in. I don't know.
Why do people go to the gym and work out when they're young?
Honestly, so that they can look good and they can mate with somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are pretty good rewards, right? Rewards worth putting some effort. Now, going to the gym, is it hard? To require effort, sometimes painful, a lot of sacrifice. You gotta make it to the gym. Like, not a lot of people can't get to the gym.
What about this thing that like the shoulds here for going to the gyms? Like the answer should be that, oh, it's so that you can live longer, or you could like.
Well, I mean, that's a reward too.
No, I know, but I'm
so there. I mean, like there are the rewards that motivate us consciously, and there's rewards that we may not necessarily be conscious to. So
yeah, then
when you're young,
we're reaping the benefit of.
When you're young, you should be not necessarily in the gym, but you should be building up strength and physical capabilities. And a gym's a decent place to do that. So it's outside. So it's a playground. Like there's a lot of places, but ideally you would be doing that because when you're young is when you have the greatest opportunity to develop a strong body that will last you until you're old. Mm-hmm. That's a huge reward down here. Mm-hmm. That's a massive reward that we're not conscious of. And if I talk to a 15 to 20-year-old, even up to like a 30-year-old, that is not a very motivating thing to talk about. When you're 80 years old, you're still going to be able to squat, get up and down off the floor, move with relatively easy pain. You're going to be able to hold your pee and not like have issues. You're going to be able to sleep through the night without needing to go to the bathroom on a regular basis. Like they're meaningless to them.
Yeah.
Not no motivating factor to it, whatever. But you're going to get laid. You might find a partner that you can maintain over time. And that's more immediate. Like this is going to help you feel good and strong about yourself. Those are rewards too. Both rewards exist, but one is going to be motivating. So I'm like, yeah, I will gladly point you in the direction of vanity and ego if it also gets you these other things down the line.
I just want to say that you're not talking about, there could be this argument that like, yeah, but I don't want to live that long. Just a particular human being. But I think what you're talking about is like, we're hardwired to really think about sustaining our life for as long as possible, like the longevity of life. It's one thing if one's choice is like, hey, I'm okay to die at 60. Like, we're not talking about that. You're really talking about just.
I mean, even that person, I want to be like, well, how do you want to be moving between 50 and 60?
Yeah, it changes.
I'm not talking about living longer. I'm talking about the quality of life is going to be improved until it ends. And if you die young, you die young. Yeah. The quality could be better because of the work that you do now. But again, that is a concept that is long-term reward, we're culture of immediate gratification. That's way too long-term. Mm-hmm. But you can develop muscles that make you want to like walk around without your shirt at the beach. That might get attention, at least the attention of one person. That's important, especially if it's the person you want that attention from. Mm-hmm. That's important. And yeah, that's a high reward. And it requires some risk and some effort and some time and dedication.
Yeah, this thing about like chasing is something that I'm still grappling with. And I think I want to talk about this with you. I want to get your insight into this. So, I got my PhD and I went on a road trip and had one of the Airbnb hosts I met with. she shared this insight where she's a teacher and she teaches her students to have extrinsic goals, but then also have intrinsic goals. So an example of that would be that me getting a PhD is like an extrinsic goal. It could even be that a level of me wanting to look good is an extrinsic goal. And then an example of an intrinsic goal could be feeling based. It could be you want to feel more of certain things. It could be that you want to, I think that's really I maybe feel less of something, but I don't know if how much of that we're in control of. But you could have a goal of something as the argument, and so that got me thinking. Like, okay, so I got my PhD, extrinsic goals. Was there anything that was intrinsic about it? And the extrinsic goals of that would be that, like, I can make my parents proud because they like did all this hardship to come to the States, and this seals it, And I was like, great. Intrinsic goals, I still have there is some intrinsic goals that I think I achieved through that process, but moving forward from that, I was like, you know what, I want to build out or think about my intrinsic goals for this next chapter. What am I going to do? And I'm still continuing to like think about that. And I want to workshop that with you. Workshop like what my intrinsic goals are for this chapter of my life, because I've been thinking about that. The intrinsic goal that I want to pursue, one of them is to feel secure. I want to know, like, tell me what you see. Like, do you see like risks suitable, because the last thing I want to do is I want to pursue something and to then just find out like this was a rat race this whole time, or that I did not set I wasn't thinking about it correctly, right? And so that's one of the ones that's been coming up the most about. And so everything that else that I do has got to feed some way or not that intrinsic goal. That's how I look at it. So I want to feel secure, stable, obviously with some like minute context, because I can't change the external world around me, and I'm not trying to just bulletproof my shit so that I always feel a certain way, one way.
I got a few things coming out of that. So I think the first place is comparing the getting a PhD to the conversation we just had about being in the gym. Being a PhD is going to the gym for your brain, right? And at 100% of this, as far as like, it's an extrinsic goal. However, it is an extrinsic goal that as you attain it, the attaining of it is building an infrastructure, largely mental, intellectual infrastructure that will serve you the rest of your life. In the same way that going to the gym when you're young
to 67,
build stronger bones, stronger muscles that will be the infrastructure that will maintain strong health going on to the end of your life. So you achieved the goal, but the rewards continue to go forward. And the rewards are also, so the part where the extrinsic becomes the intrinsic is how you integrate. You have this robust infrastructure that you are now marketable. You have, not just on your resume, but actually how you can use your brain to be marketable. You with a PhD compared to you without a PhD can do more. Just period. You don't need to show your your degree in order to prove it. You can just do more.
Yeah. And you're talking like just period. Like that's a blanket statement.
Going the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Nobody can take that away from you. Right. You will to take it away. You can't. You're not going. You'd be less of, and you're not going to, like, you have that permanently the rest of your life.
That's cool. You know what? Because my brain that I couldn't really fathom this thing that you said, that there are certain risks that's worth chasing. And I still couldn't, but I'm seeing some connections here where you could be chasing the extrinsic goals for whatever reasons that is. You can look at it like it's high risk, like I was stupid, like whatever. However, if that's getting you something to that intrinsic quality that leads you to be a better person, then sometimes it's worth chasing that, no matter how you look at it.
Yeah. Well, did your parents mildly push you towards a PhD? Was there a little, like, did you feel some pressure? Like, I need to do this because my parents are like, even if they weren't overtly pressuring you, there's a little push, right? The expectation that you're going to go to college.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then
like, that's not even a question.
And then even
probably in postgrad.
A little bit of an expectation for postgraduate.
Yeah.
Well, was it the piece of paper that they wanted you to get?
Right. No. Yeah.
It's because they knew what came with that piece of paper was all of this that's going to be with you, right? That you are going to be in a position to be more successful the rest of your life. So they were recognizing that the short-term goal and whatever motivates you to get to it is, this is the same thing as like, I want you to go work out because it's going to get you laid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? Well, is that really the reason I want you to work out? No, it's because it's going to benefit your long-term health the rest of your life and make you stronger so you can support other people the rest of your life. It will make you stronger as well as your community. Same thing with going to get a degree.
Yeah.
For you. And so, but the kid going to the gym may not recognize that once you got that piece of paper, it's like, well, now what?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's like, well, that wasn't really the goal. It was just to help you. It was to help you get all these new things. That wasn't really the goal. That was an important piece to the puzzle of you. That again, once you have it, it's you the rest of your life.
Yeah.
The security. Is it so much that you want to feel secure and stable, or that you don't want to experience the feelings of insecurity and instability? That's a little bit of a tricky question.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what is it really that you want to feel secure? Because what does that really mean?
Mm-hmm.
And is it more
that I don't want to
feel insecure?
Yeah, I think it's the latter. Because I've battled that my whole life and I don't want to do that.
Right. So what is insecurity then? Especially like, this is an interesting one. So we're going to call it the feelings of insecurity versus insecurity.
Yeah, yes, right.
Because
I'm also talking about feeling of being secure,
right?
Than security.
Right. Because insecurity is a real thing. People experience true insecurity. They live in unsafe situations, unsafe environments where they are truly insecure. And then there's the feelings of insecurity, which if you're living in an insecure environment, you're going to feel insecure. Yeah. But there are those of us, you look around our environment, it's like, I am not under threat, but yet I feel as if I do, as if I am. So it's a feeling that is not reflected by my reality. And so that is where I think that you're generally at, is a feeling the insecurity, when insecurity is not actually true in the real world. And so now I'm dealing with, so where are these feelings coming from? And that is, the extrinsic, now it's an intrinsic goal.
And then the integration of it.
Yeah, integration of it.
Yeah.
Because this is I think we talked about this in the first episode, maybe the second episode, of who am I? Where do I start? Where does the rest of the world, where do I end, and where does the rest of the world begin? You go to school because your parents expect you to. Are you doing it for you? I mean, when we're 20, we're really too ignorant of our future to do it for ourselves. So part of the reason our parents, that the guilt trip of our parents is a thing to begin with. And parents who use that well can set their kids up to be successful. parents who use it poorly can put their kids into feeling insecure their whole life, in which they feel that they're constantly floundering and they're never actually living up to anything. You achieved the goal and you're now past it in a place in which I'm assuming that there's not a whole lot of parental expectations anymore.
Definitely.
You got the PhD, you're married. If there's any parental expectation at this point, it's to have kids because they want to be grandparents. But that's probably low levels as well. And there's not a whole lot. So now you're left with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, after PhD, it was really just that. It's like, where do I start? Where do I begin? This thing that you're talking about, because there was a lot of the stuff of these expectations, parental expectations, family expectations that oftentimes I took on. Like, they might not have even had to say anything, especially when it comes to PhD. Like, I took on because I was like, it's got to be worth it for them. It will, or maybe I was just chasing again that maybe I will be enough now that I've gotten this for whatever that hardship that they went through. Even though I'm sure, I feel like they're not thinking that way at all. That's my interpretation of like parent-child, I guess, relationship.
Yeah. And I think it's all beautiful. I think it's all,
yeah.
I mean, your experience of it, like, at least from my perspective, it's setting you up to be successful. When you feel successful is a different question, but it has set you up. Your parents have done a good job to get you into a place in where you have have great opportunity of success because of how they parented you.
Yeah.
There's a difference between opportunity of success and how you might feel in that moment. So I'm going to come back to the insecurity part. So if insecurity is not true to the environment that you're living with, then it's not security that you're seeking. It's you're dealing with the feelings of insecurity. And I think insecurity is a natural phenomenon at this point. Because
feeling
insecure. What is insecurity? It's like, well, who am I? What am I? I'm unsure. I'm insecure with who I am. I've lived my life this is childhood. I've lived my life based on being told what to do every step of the way. And then all of a sudden, as we get older, we're given more and more freedom. And as we get those freedoms, what am I supposed to be doing? I don't know, because I've been told what I'm supposed to be doing up to this point. And that's a tricky area to train to move from being a child to becoming an adult. So I'm going to come back to the feelings of insecurity. That's where I come to practice. If I am having feelings that are not in alignment with reality, then there is something that is out of integrity. And so it's the feelings. And so that's where the internal work. It's not that I need to achieve security. It's that I can bring the focus inward and start doing some work with the insecurity that I'm feeling. Some of that is just breath work, surrender, getting underneath it. As insecurity is an emotion. It's a feeling, but it's an emotion that our nervous system will, when insecurity gets triggered, there's going to be a chemical cascade that has a very specific chemical makeup that floods our body. And so we feel it, just like anger, just like fear, it's going to flood our body. And so if I recognize that I'm feeling insecurity and it's not in alignment with what is real, I take nice big breaths, bring in oxygen to help flood and dilute those chemicals and flush them, get them reabsorbed, remove them from the bloodstream slowly. And I can start to get underneath that feeling of insecurity a little bit. I can also journal about it. What is that insecurity pointing me to? What is it telling me about myself? What is it directing me to? Because if in my journaling, I can question, like, am I really, like, is this true? Am I really insecure? Okay, Am I at risk? Am I at threat? Is there somebody attacking me? No. I'm in a good place otherwise. So what is this? What is it pointing me to? Is it telling me that I'm supposed to be doing something different? Is there something that I need to be open to engaging with differently? Am I doing things that I've always been doing because I've always been doing those things and I haven't really come and looked at them to see, is this mine or is this somebody else's? And can I let that go? And it's, so it's a part of like internally peering in, like, who am I? Who am I over here in this part of my world? Who am I over here in this part of my internal world? And when I find parts of myself that don't feel true to me, I can start to let those things go and start doing things a little bit differently. And in that, I start to have a better understanding of who I am. And part of that, who I am, is going to be integrated with all this work that I've done up to this point. That PhD is so much a part of who you are. It's going to be influencing how you think and how you process this internally. Like, that's going to be a part of the internal work. Not consciously, unconsciously. You're not even going to be able to see the ways that it's influencing. But as you get, you go through that process over time, and this is a process that takes days, weeks, months, years, decades. You become more sure of who you are. You become more secure in yourself. And so feeling secure is a byproduct of
working through
not just working through it, but paying attention to, like, using it as a signal.
Yeah.
In the same way that I talk about pain is a signal. It's a conversation. It's popping up because something is out of alignment, out of integrity. And you can use that as like, oh, that's an opportunity. This isn't this bad thing. I'm doing things wrong. It's like, no.
Or like, oh, I got to go do this.
Sometimes it's going to feel like that.
Yeah.
Right? Sometimes we begrudgingly go do the work. It's like, oh, fuck, it is for wrong, right?
Yeah.
But when we stay committed to it, when we are disciplined to the work part, to processing through, it's like, oh, if I'm noticing I have an emotional process and I pay attention to it, it's going to direct me to something relevant that is going on, that is present for me. And I'm feeling insecure and I'm paying attention to it. Man, that is a part of that work that keeps me present in the moment. And as I'm present in the moment and I'm paying attention, and it's directing me to do things that are meaningful with purpose, because this is about, like, when I'm checking in with my insecurity is pointing me in a direction. That is something that's coming from source, that's bigger and broader, that has a better understanding of my life than my brain does, my attached brain in this moment.
I hear so much ego stuff, like in this, like, I can foresee ego coming in so much in this process. I know you're talking about this. A layer beneath that is when you work through that self.
Beneath it and with it.
Okay.
Right?
Well, recognizing it, I guess.
Can we separate our egos from ourselves?
No.
So the idea that I'm going to, like, my ego has to stay in another room, it's not allowed to be in here, it's just silly. So ego's going to be a part of this too. And,
well, I mean, especially because you talk about goals and stuff, I feel like, I just think it's like, for me, it's like ego. It's like, hey man, what are you working on? What's the goal?
All right. So with the internal part, goals would not be a part of the conversation.
Right.
Like, if I'm having a conversation with insecurity, it's like, all right, insecurity, what's the goal? It's like, no.
That sounds like ego to me, like that voice.
Right. That's what I'm saying. It's not that.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be.
We don't want to do that.
If you hear that, it's like, yeah, this is not a goal-oriented process. Working through emotional process is not goal-oriented. If it's a goal orientation to it, that's something to pay attention to. Because there are times, so oh man, this is going to get complex. So
Mhm.
insecurity it's like a little warning beacon going off. There's something you could be doing. There's something you could be doing. I don't know what that thing is. So I'm going to go in and be like, all right, what is this? And I can't, goal orientation means if I'm goal oriented, then it means that I have a finger or an arrow and I'm pointing in a direction. It's like, oh, I got to go that way.
Yeah.
The
It's
reality
like
is
pre-existing
I
thing already.
don't know. So
Yeah.
I can't be goal oriented. I have to be open, and I have to be open to just about anything. That this insecurity might tell me to do something goal oriented, or it might tell me to go do something that doesn't make a whole lot of sense as far as goal oriented.
That actually sounds exactly like insecurity, right? It's like the reason why you have perhaps the insecurity is perhaps it could be that you've been like telling yourself of this goal or something, and it's just like, hey, like, listen, like, maybe it is like that you want to do that, or it's like, hey, like, that's not what you want. Like, that's not what you want at all. Like, listen to me. And I keep I keep thinking about the goal, and I never listen to that. And the insecurity never goes. The feeling of insecurity never goes away.
It's not telling you what you want or what you don't want. It's telling you what it's leading you towards what's in service for you.
Okay. Without telling you what you want.
Correct. Well, because what's in service to you, like having a PhD serves you. It's not what you want. It's something that serves you. Once you attained it, it serves you for the rest of your life. I'm going to give a random example. When I got divorced, or separated, I intentionally did not date for a year. I spent a lot of time alone, a lot of processing work. And in that, dealing with insecurity. Insecurity is a big part of that. If you get divorced, the insecurity is going to be everything that you think you know in the world's just completely destroyed. Your paradigms crumble down and you're kind of you're picking up the pieces and rebuilding. And so in my work with insecurity, it's like, what am I supposed to be doing? What am I guided to be doing? What is in service to me? And one of the things I got directed to do was to take a improv class, which I hate. I love improv. I love the concept of improv, but to be in a class with a bunch of strangers and performing improv was out of my comfort zone 100%. Still is, even though I'm very improvisational naturally, but to go intentionally do it in a class like that was not comfortable. But by doing it, it got me social. It got me out of the house. And a big thing it taught me was the concept of yes and. To be able to yes and, because my mind at that point was no, but no. I but no'd everything. So instead of a but no, to be a yes and, to be able to accept what is being shared, and to be able to end it, as opposed to but no, and to put a stop to it.
Or starting again, like from scratch.
Right. So
yeah,
and yes and is a being open to whatever comes next. I think it's a brilliant part of improv. Just the concept of improv. I learned a lot in that class that served me, even though it wasn't what I wanted to do. The class I teach at ABP isn't something I want to do. I don't like teaching in front of people. I don't like teaching to a group. It's uncomfortable. This is uncomfortable. Talking in front of the camera is uncomfortable. I do it because that is what I'm guided to do. Because I recognize that when I pay attention to my guidance, it serves me. It serves in ways that I can't even see. It's intangible rewards. If I base it on my wants, that's definitely going to be very ego driven. And my wants tend to be focused more on immediate gratification and doesn't recognize the long-term rewards that I may not even be able to see. There's the things that I can see and there's the things that I can't. And so when I get into my insecurity, I'm really more paying attention to what am I guided to be doing? What do I need to be open to as far as the endless possibilities of the world? And then what resonates? What is in alignment for me to do? And oftentimes the things that are in alignment for me to do are not the things that I want to do. They're actually really difficult and really hard, and they challenge me and they stretch me and they make me uncomfortable. But in the doing of them, I gain insight. I learn about myself. I learn that I can do hard things, and I learn that I can learn new things, that I'm constantly able to evolve and change and grow. And that serves me long down the line in ways that just continue to open up. And every time you get stretched and pulled and changed in such ways, you get a deeper knowing of yourself, right? There's a level of security, less the feelings of insecurity that get flushed away, and you're more secure with what's there now than you were with what was there previously.
I have a question. When you say you operate generally out of what you're guided to do, are you freestyling this, like, in general? Or I'm going to bring this all back to the whole conversation that we'll be having is the concept of happiness, chasing certain things, also concepts of goals, intrinsic versus extrinsic goals. Like, do you think about how you work on a day-to-day basis, or we decide to do a podcast, and are you looking at it with that language, or like, I don't hear it when you say I'm guided to do this.
Right. I'd say it's a weird combination of all. So there's a degree in which every moment I'm asking yes or no. And so I'm literally freestyling moment to moment. Yes, no. And it's like an internal and constantly paying attention. So that's kind of, it's just like a low level frequency that I try to maintain. It requires being present, which I'm not always perfect at. So that's not that's not the ideal place. That's not the place where you start, because it's too challenging. There's too many variables. Your ego's too easy to get involved. So, but that is one layer. I do, I will journal, meditate, and just ask, what am I supposed to be doing? And sometimes it's, what am I supposed to be doing today? What am I supposed to be doing this week? What am I supposed to be doing this year? What are my short and long-term goals? The podcast was something that I got insight into years ago, that this would be a possibility that I needed to be open to. And so when it came to where it came more into fruition, I was already a yes to it.
I see. So it wasn't like my extrinsic, intrinsic, whatever goals was to like be on a podcast. You're like, a possibility was revealed to you. You're like, I'm paying attention to this. Whatever that alarming thing was, like, I see that. And then when the moment came, you were like, this is a yes or no question. And if I remember correctly, I have to be open to that. I'm guided to do that. Therefore, this is a yes. I'm not saying I'm doing this with ego or without, like, per se. You're saying, I'm just recalling that I remember this answer from before.
Yeah.
Right.
And so in the moment, yes.
Yeah.
I'm still doing the in the moment, because in the moment I get a no, I'm going to probably be like, I may say, give me a moment. Give me a few days to think about it.
Yeah.
But it was a yes all the way.
I see. Yeah. Where I stand in my career and the way I think, I am constantly working with terms like goals and things like that, right? And they serve you 100%. They serve you. And at the same time, it's not always the best to be fixated on it. And because I know you've used the analogy of the lighthouse, and I think that's a good reminder for me to pay attention to, where you could have lighthouses, but we're not going to hit the lighthouse. We're going to go in that general direction. And that general direction and that ambiguity or that dynamicness of it is where the internal work and the feeling of insecurities and all, like, and what it guides you to things that we don't know, like this unknown that's in 20 years from now, 30 years from now, 40 years, 60 years from now. That openness comes, it's tied to that dynamicness.
I like goals. I think goals are actually really, really important. And I think people should have 1-year goals, 3-year goals, 5-year goals, 10, 15-year goals. And I think they should be reflecting on those goals on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
It should be a part of a practice of reflecting on them. And a part of that reflecting is not, this is just what I want to do because of my ego, but like,
nor is it to just check it off.
Right. Well, I mean, it's the beauty of goals is when you do accomplish them, you get to check them off, and that feels good.
Mm-hmm.
So that is a benefit, but that's not the reason.
Yeah.
In the reflecting of the goals, I want to go through the process. I want to go through the journaling and the all the emotionality of it. I want, like, why do I want that goal? Is that goal for me or is it for other people? And just because it's for other people doesn't mean it doesn't serve me still. So it's like, I just want to, and that's part of the reason I want to do this as a regular part of processing is like, am I moving towards my goal? I think goals are important in that way. However, they're not set in stone. One of my favorite things that I say to myself that I was learned in the work was, man plans and God laughs. It's like, you can have all the goals you write out and, But
what you're saying is like, the goals can change from a lighthouse in Maine to a lighthouse in southern, like,
it's going to be a little
flexible.
Right. Yeah. You got to be able to shift as things change. Mm-hmm. But if you're moving in the direction of a goal, you are going to get some progress. And the progress is what you're really, that's the infrastructure that you get rewarded for at the end, even if you don't attain that goal.
Yeah.
I'll give another weird, not weird example, but my personal, not normal example is I went to college 3 different times. I went straight after high school, 2.5 years, was not very successful. I dropped out of school. If I stayed 1 semester, I probably would have been kicked out because I didn't have good grades. And it wasn't that I just wasn't a good student. I didn't know how to be a good student. So I probably would not have been successful 1 more semester because nothing was changing in my life at that point. Years go by, join the Navy, get out of the Navy, go back to school for another 3 years. And then I'm 20 hours away from graduating. And I stopped going to school because I'm already working and I just stopped going. And another 10 years go by, 15 years go by. And I go to school a 3rd time and it takes me, and because I have so much lag and I've changed my degree plan a couple of times, I have to change it again because what was offered, my old degree plan doesn't even exist anymore. So I've got another 2.5, 3 years. So total 9, 10 years of school. My first 2.5 years of school benefited me in tremendous ways because the time that I was putting forth effort towards a goal that I never actually attained. One of the ways it benefited me was when I joined the Navy, because I had college credit hours, I was able to enlist at a higher ranking. Mm-hmm. I was a E3 versus an E1, which meant I got paid more, but it also meant I was higher in the rankings, which means I didn't have to clean toilets. Other people had to clean toilets. I got to hold a broom. I got the better job. And then when it came to being promoted, I was already promoted to getting a chevron on my sleeve, which again, elevated me to a little less work. Mm-hmm. Those who didn't have chevrons were always going to get the crap work. In minor detail, but significant. Went back to school, got through, learned a whole lot. It expanded my mind. even though I didn't get the degree, I was 20 hours away. It was probably closer to 12 hours away. Like, it was stupid close. I was a semester or so finished, and I stopped going to school. Even though I didn't have the degree, I had the benefit all that time. And so when I finally went back to finish the degree, once I got the degree doesn't do anything for me.
Mm-hmm.
But it was all that, it was those 3 times going to school. It was the experience of doing it. Being a student for 10 years has changed me in profound levels that the degree will never show.
Mm-hmm.
So the goal is only beneficial in what it gets you along the way. It's the journey that matters most, and what you're doing to develop yourself, who you are, who you're going to become, that matters. Whether you achieve the goal or not is less relevant than the steps you're taking towards it. And if the goal changes and shifts along the way, then you pivot and you change with that goal. But you're constantly, like, everything that you've done up to that point, you got that. That's a part of you going forward, even if it's moving you towards something a little bit different.
I see the parallelism in the spectrum of happiness and sadness or boredom as well, where we talked about how you get to the sunset moment, and sometimes it actually is accentuated because of these other things that you've experienced before, and that are probably the opposite of this feeling of happiness.
You want to hear? So this is I'm jumping on what you just said, but it's not quite to the same degree. When I finally graduated, I graduated in August of 2020. COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So, last semester, finishing out, going to be done with school, going to get to graduate, going to get to walk with my robe, my kid who's now teenagers. They get to,
it's going to be a dopamine rush.
It's going to be a dopamine rush. And it's going to be this great thing.
Yeah.
COVID hits. There's no walk. It's like so anticlimactic.
That's funny because, like, even when you hit the goal, you didn't actually hit, like, you could say you didn't hit the dopamine, like, benefits per se, but you did intrinsically. But I'm saying, yeah.
So sometimes the sense, like, sometimes you do all this work with the expectation of the sunset. I didn't get that walk, and that's definitely, like, I have a little sadness about that.
Mm-hmm.
I was looking forward to that. 10 years to get that thing, and then COVID. But I have that piece of paper up on my wall in a frame, and when I look at it, I'm reflecting back on not the missing that walk, but on the time it took to get that, and everything that it means. And the big thing it reminds me that I am a student first, always a student first. That was my mentality that got me to go back and to go back again, is that I had to be a student first. I always wanted to be a student with a capital S and a teacher with a lowercase t. And I'm still in that state. I'm actually thinking about, I need to find a new level of education to put myself into in order to be uncomfortable as a student again.
Mm-hmm. Awesome, man. That video just went out.
Yeah.
The teacher with a capital T and teacher with a lowercase t, student with a capital S and lowercase s. Yeah. I think this was good. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. Yeah, it was a good conversation.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Hey, thank you for making it all the way to the end. If you enjoyed this episode, please share with your best friends and subscribe if you haven't already subscribed. Thank you for your support. Talk to you in the next one. This is Smit, tuning out of TAOTalks.